Well, good morning. Today is the 25th of November, 2020. I'm Roy Potter. I'm doing this early because, as most of you know who follow me, beginning this time of year, I'm off doing things, seeing people despite, even if they put in travel restrictions or whatever else, which I anticipate here just about at any time. So I have to take this opportunity this morning, which is the day before Thanksgiving, and say I hope you all, despite all that's happening, have a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving with family and friends, and to hell with government edicts. You do what you need to do to be with your family. Don't let the government interfere with that most sacred. It's more sacred than government edicts, and it's more sacred than the government itself, because the government was made to protect us in our rights as individual human beings. It was not meant to be our master. Although I know that when men get free, the only way they retain it is by belligerently demanding their rights, and in some cases, having to defend it with deadly force. I don't know if Americans have that in their guts anymore. Be that as it may, this is the time of year where, despite the government edicts, and some states are loosening up. Utah governor loosened up his restrictions on no more than 10 people gathering together and no going to somebody else's home, which was totally ridiculous anyway. But a lot of other states aren't letting up on that. We just saw where New Mexico closed grocery stores. New York has checkpoints going in and out. Philadelphia. This is going to become the norm. This is not the United States of America anymore. There are those who have complained for a long time that, we lost the government during the corporation of the United States in, what was that, whenever it was. I can't even remember, 79, somewhere in there, where they incorporated the government. Maybe it was 7, I don't remember, because I don't pay attention to it anyway. And the reason why is because Marbury versus Madison rules, which says that no law that is made that contradicts the Constitution has any force. It's null and void right away. However, there was the problem with the Civil War, and really the Constitution was destroyed in 1865, is really when it was destroyed. And we've just been seeing the fallout of that ever since. But that's a history lesson that most of you probably already know. Anyway, I have my coffee this morning. It is caramel cream. I think I'm going to lower this camera down just a wee bit. So hold on a second while I do that. It's just a little too high. Let's see if that works better. Sorry about that. Okay, so there are a lot of things I could talk about this morning. I guess one I better address before I get into the subject matter here, although it's still related. I see, of course, President Trump has said that the transitioning process needs to start, which isn't a full-blown concession, but it's not a concession too. I mean, legally, there is no such thing as a legal concession anyway. But I mean, that's as close as you can get without saying it. I still think, however, that despite all of the appearances, this is nothing more than to get people riled up and upset, to continue to give them. Steve Coughlin of Unconstrained Analytics explained it as a phenomenon. I forget the exact term that it is, but it's basically just throwing so much at you that you can't process it. And that's exactly what I've been saying. It's a form of mass attack, one of the elements of war, one of the principles of war. and they're doing it with information, because even though President Trump said, all you out there fake news, he didn't do anything to reinstate the Smith-Mundt prohibition on propaganda against Americans, which he should have at least attempted, and he didn't even make the attempt. So we have a situation there with the election, and unlike Mark Pantano, who I respect very, very much, and his legal analysis is spot on, and I said that. He's not, and he can't really go to where I can go, because the constraints and restraints of his profession prohibit him, I guess I would say, from doing it under the circumstances. But I have no fear of that, because I can look at it from a military perspective and still have respect for his legal analysis. And if any of you are following him, you will know that he's saying that all of this voter and election fraud nonsense is just that. It's nonsense. And I don't entirely agree with that. I do believe, primarily because we've got the evidence from previous elections and from other things, that the electronic voting machines have been a problem. Yes, the late votes coming in probably would have been mostly from Biden, but that's really not what the entire issue is, actually. And he's an election expert. I am not, but I am more or less. I do understand things like coups and color revolutions and revolutions and guerrilla warfare and those types of things. And of course, as we've seen, this is a guerrilla warfare of sorts on the information stage of battle for the hearts and minds, psychological. But let me hasten to add, just because I'm saying that doesn't mean that it won't go into a full-blown war, okay? Just like it did in Yugoslavia. It can still do that, and it probably will. Because that's what they want. They want the United States as a single, powerful nation to fold. They don't want it to just come in under the New World Order. They want to break it up. And in some ways, that could be good for many of us after all this is settled. But at least as of right now, that's how I'm looking at it. 1871, thank you. I couldn't remember. 1871, right. Okay. Yeah, 1789 was the Constitution. Too early in the morning. I hadn't even had my first sip of coffee yet before I started. So thank you for correcting me, setting me on the straight and narrow. So back on the election, I do think that there is a not widespread, there is just like Patrick Byrne has said, he's been interviewed several places, and he's the former CEO of Overstock, owner actually, he's actually started it. He basically talks about this electronic voting machine theft using an algorithm, which is probably where Sidney Powell got the idea. I'm not certain of that. The problem is that Patrick Byrne, I mean, they can file all these lawsuits and things, but unless the Department of Justice gets involved and goes after people criminally, we saw the Dominion people refuse to come to, and they lawyered up. They were scheduled to come and testify before the Pennsylvania legislature, and they canceled and lawyered up. So unlike Mark Pantano, I see plenty of evidence that there was a specific type of election voting machine fraud that has occurred, and it's not unlike other nations. Now in Ukraine, for instance, they caused this entire thing over an election so they could start a color revolution, which is exactly the point where we are. I said that they're using the same tactics they used in Ukraine, and in fact very similar to what they did in Yugoslavia. It's a little different, but some very similar tactics they've used in the United States. And Mark is not approaching it from a warfare standpoint. He's approaching it from a legal standpoint. But that shows that it's working, doesn't it? Doesn't it show that if the lawyers and the legal scholars get behind what's happening and all of that, that it kind of gives credence to the idea that there is no actual color revolution or coup or anything else or election fraud? Yeah, yeah, it does. Again, not to blame Mark. It's just that I look at it from a military standpoint. I think Burns on the right track. I do believe, like I've said all along, it was the voting machines, even more so than the mail-in ballots and all that stuff, hauling in paper ballots and not counting them properly or whatever. I felt like the voting machines were the biggest problem, and apparently from the statistical information that Byrne has been willing to share, more so than even Sidney Powell, I think he's onto something now. The problem is, as I just said, he doesn't have he nor Sidney have the power of the force of government, the DOJ in particular, to pursue this. So why isn't the DOJ doing it? They're being awfully quiet. Well, the CIA, the FBI, the DOJ, even the State Department, they're all part of this. They're loaded with these people, and actually so is the DOD. They're loaded. They're loaded with these leftists who have been, planning this takedown for a long time with the help of people like Gates and Soros, etc. So the real problem that I see is, even if you get it in front of the courts, and the Supreme Court is stacked right now, not stacked, but it's set up right now where it could go along with, if the evidence presented is strong enough, it could have an impact. I'm not saying it will. I'm saying I think it probably could, but I hope that's not the only approach that. Even though I don't care for Trump, I don't. But the election steal is something else. Even though that could be something, that could still be part of the delusion. This deception is so widespread, and I'm not trying to give you a caveat. It's just that I see a lot of problems. So, Sidney Powell had a tweet this morning. I wasn't going to bring this up, but I might as well. Sidney Powell had a tweet this morning where she said, basically, she agreed with it, and it was a tweet from a person or a group, I'm not sure which it is, that I've never seen before that I know of, saying that the Kraken is a DoD cybersecurity warfare mission, operation. I don't know if that's true or not, because it sounds awfully Q-ish to me. But if there is anybody in the government, it certainly isn't the DOJ. If there is anybody in the government that could try to write this thing, I could see it being a small group, probably special forces related. And we saw how special forces was made into its own branch. Like the U.S., like the Army, like the Navy, like the Air Force, like Space Force. Special Forces is now basically a separate branch of the DoD under the acting secretary, the Secretary of Defense, and specifically controlled by Ezra Watnick Cohen, which seems, a lot of people think it's, that's tying it into the Zionist situation, but regardless, that would give both Space Force and Special Forces a little more, or I should say less, control by the more suspicious elements in the Department of Defense. Whether that's actually happening or not, Sidney Powell might be, rushing to conclusions there, or she might know something. I don't know. I said before that if that raid in Germany really happened, that Trump would have had to have given that the green light. So who knows what's really going on behind the scenes. I still maintain that Trump will maintain power. If not remain in the White House, he will still maintain power in another way. But I think the White House is probably still where the game is. So we'll wait and see. I'm not giving a whole lot of credence to this Kraken operation in the Department of Defense, but I'm not going to rule it out either at this point, because like I say, it sounds very Q-ish in a lot of ways. I'm not saying it is. but I'm just going to kind of watch it. So just to let you know what I've got my eyes on right now. What if Trump is who I think he is and what I think he is? The whole idea is commotion, is this massive deception. That's the goal of this entire thing. So uncertainty and fear and confusion, all of those things are actually the mission itself, if Trump is who I think he is. And it's certainly the mission of the satanic forces anyway, because that's what they do. So regardless of who is doing this or why, it's satanic in its basic construction. All right. Then I guess what I would probably like to talk about is why I called this video today Fed and State Government Democide. I think it's obvious. Stalin and Mao, one of the things that they did was they cut off the people's supply lines, logistics, especially their enemies. And of course, the people of the United States are the enemy of the IC. What's the motto of my channel? And it's also the objective of the New World Order, right? The people are the enemy, according to them. Bill Gates wants to destroy you. Ted Turner wants to destroy you. They want to reduce the population, if not gently, then by violent force as soon as possible. We've seen the Deagle.com information where they want to reduce the American population by some 250 million, something like that. I heard, you know how I do, I start bringing stuff in from other places. I heard a family member of mine yesterday talking about, we do have to reduce the population of the world because we're running out of water, we're running out of this, we're running out of that. I chose not to comment because there's no way I'm going to be able to educate someone in even an hour about what is really at stake here and what is really going on. So I made a few small remarks, but nothing particular. I will agree that one of the tasks that we received, if you believe the Bible, is that we would have to take care of the garden. In other words, we should take care of the earth. That's never been the issue. The problem is that the people that started the Industrial Revolution and got rich off of it, and didn't take the precautions to protect the earth, like for instance dumping pollution into the sea, burning it and putting it into the air, all of the waste that it caused. All they thought about was profit. They didn't think about how to clean up after themselves, right? The baby in the diaper thing, he poops in the diaper, you got to change the diaper. You got to keep things clean and working. And they didn't worry about that. And then because they sucked you into it and you became engulfed in consumerism, which is something that I do have a problem with, that is a problem in modern economics that should be changed. The problem is that they want to blame you for it, okay? And they want you to pay the price that they themselves caused. In other words, it's another form of Hegelian dialectic, right? So they're evil to the core with what they're doing and how they're trying to pull this over. So they used you, the slaves, to build this world, and now they want to refuse your right to enjoy it and in fact remove you from it by forceful means if necessary. So for that reason, I stand against what they are and what they say they're going to do, because they could resolve this problem of waste and all of that in a heartbeat. But they won't, because it would also cause them to lose some of their power and some of their wealth. That's the problem. They're evil. So they instituted this entire false, not saying, again, like everybody else does, I have to make a caveat. I'm not saying there isn't a virus. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of viruses. and you can be susceptible to any of them if your immune system drops below. As a matter of fact, in your body normally you have all the diseases that are on the earth. The only thing that's happening is your immune system is so good that it suppresses those and it never lets them take hold. When you do have a problem with nutrition, or you're worn out or whatever and you become weak, then one of those can take hold. And then your immune system, if it can't handle it, might need some help. But they're lying to us now, and I think we all know that. And the reason that they're lying to us with the numbers and all that, I'm not going to renew all that, is to enslave us. That is it. Gates has already said what he's up to, and I'm not going to review that here again now. Most of you know that, and if you don't, you need to go check it out. But this is an evil program, and unfortunately, whether Trump did it unwillingly or willingly, I think it was willingly. It's happening, and he contributed to it. And the fact that he will not remove his national emergency, as I've said, so that all of these horrible things that the states and the counties are doing to people and the cities, with him giving them cover with that national emergency, then he's culpable and he's responsible. So what happened? His long introduction to get me where I am now, right? They're killing people. They're not getting the medical care they need. They're suiciding themselves from losing their ability to take care of themselves and their family. Depression, alcoholism, drug use, all of these things are destroying our people. Now, the weak among us are going to succumb to this. So you could say it's a natural culling process. Well, regardless, it's murder. It's premeditated murder. And when it's done by government, that's called democide. They know what they're doing. They know what the numbers are. You can't tell me they are. Just because they conveniently throw them all into the COVID category, anybody with a grain of common sense can look at it and see what's really happening. So the scientists want you to believe them. They want you to worship them as a religion. It's no longer the scientific method. Believe the science. Yeah, like believe this religion or that religion. Forget the actual numbers. Forget the actual situation, symptoms, clinical examinations, all that. So in Buffalo, New York, the other day, Buffalo has a very close part of my heart. It's really part of me because that's where my wife was born and raised, was in Buffalo, New York. And obviously I've been there several times, and I have an affinity for it. But I also know that the government there, like so many other places, is a problem. And most of you know that there was a gym there, and the local sheriff and the police, I think there were 3 or 4 sheriff's police there, and a health department enforcer, a really disgusting, despicable lady. And sorry about that. I'll get that later. And they came into this gym and tried to shut it down. Well, the people didn't have any part of it. They basically forced the health department official, that's a horrible term, health department enslaver, and the sheriffs who didn't have the understanding of their oath of office to do the right thing, they were finally chased out. Well, guess what happened later yesterday? The gym was, the owner of the gym received a fine of $15,000. Whatever happened to the amendment, or the part of the Constitution, the amendment which says that the punishment has to meet the crime, no excessive fines? I tweeted out this morning, well, anybody who knows how government works could see that happening. That's how they work. They're too cowardly to stand up and do the right thing or to accept their licks. No, they turn around and they use fines and other criminal type proceedings to get their pound of flesh. The entire city of Buffalo, New York, should arise in civil disobedience. The entire city. And I will call for it Go and get the mayor of that city, the county sheriff, the police chief, and drag them out by their hair and tar and feather them. That's what should happen. Where's the DOJ? Remember the letter that Bill Barr, I tweeted this out this morning. What happened to the letter, the memo from Bill Barr to his U.S. attorneys that they needed to watch for this type of abuse that violates rights and in fact violates the Constitution? Crickets. Crickets. Well, don't think that I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat waiting to see if Bill Barr is going to do anything, because I know he won't. He should be investigating these election fraud problems. There should be people in handcuffs right now. Dominion should have already been raided. Well, apparently something was raided in Germany, but I mean, as far as those people that failed to show up in Philadelphia. Where are they? Well, they're either complicit or they're incompetent. And of course, you know, I think they're complicit. I explained that at the very beginning. So, from New Mexico shutting down the grocery stores, to Gavin Newsom doing what he's doing in California, to even the governor of Utah, who's going to let you out now for a little while for Thanksgiving. He's going to suspend his restrictions just for Thanksgiving. Like he has the right to do that and the power, and he shouldn't. And the legislature is a bunch of chicken necks for not taking it away from him right now. And that goes for all the other states as well. They're destroying the people, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stalinist, Maoist tactics under the color of law to starve out the people. Exactly what Stalin did, but they're trying to do it. I'm not even sure how to say this. They're trying to do it in under color of law, of course, but like under the pretense of they're helping us. They're so concerned about our health and our well-being that they're going to starve us to death. They're going to make us depressed so that some of us end up blowing our brains out. They really care about us. Yeah, they're doing it while acting like they're not. I know most of you aren't Mormons, but it's very true. And it's a principle throughout the Bible too. But there's a scripture that Mormons study. It's called the Doctrine and Covenants. And I just throw this out because it fits. And there's a section in the D&C that says, it goes something like this. A man will begin to exercise, anytime a man gets authority, or a woman these days, of course, just say anyone. Anytime anyone gets a little authority, as they suppose, they almost immediately begin to exercise unrighteous dominion. Whether you like Mormonism or not, that's a very true statement. You can see it happening across the board at this point in time. Trump failed to arrest the coup plotters. He's failing to go after the election fraud. Oh, going to do it in court. Oh, how nice. Where's Barr? All this. The FBI, don't you dare spit on the sidewalk. Don't you demand that you can grow food in your yard. Don't demand that, you've got rights to the land and you're supposed to be able to use it under contract law from 200 years ago. They're just going to change it now or trick you into giving it up and then confiscate all of your domesticated animals. I'm talking about Bundy Ranch. Government's not protecting you anymore. It's your enemy. It's not for the common good. It's for them. And Trump has pretended like he was standing against it. Yeah, I know they're getting me. Hello. Yeah, who was that? Cerebral Abyss. Yeah, I know things are getting Ontario, I talked about it either yesterday or the day yesterday, I guess, about them bringing out the military like they've done with General Perna here. Trump using General Perna. Oh, really? Really? Uh-huh. You know, anybody who thinks that Trump is for anybody but himself is just delusional at this point. Totally delusional. He doesn't give a rat's ass about the American people. Not a rat's ass. He can say he does. He can get up in his rallies there and say all the nice words, but then look at what he does. And people, I get these texts from people saying, "Oh, but he's done this and he's done that," and he's, yeah, uh-huh. Boy, talk about drinking the Kool-Aid. I loved the Osmonds. My brother was, I think he was Marie's bodyguard, one of her bodyguards back in the 70s. Yeah. I actually met the Osmonds. I never met Marie. Not that, I mean, she may have been around in a couple things I was at, but I'd never met Marie. I knew the brothers, Donnie and the others. Yeah. We congregated in a sports area. I'll just put it that way. Back in the 70s. So I did meet them. And like I said, my brother Jim was Marie's bodyguard. I think it was Marie's. It may have been Donnie's, but I think it was Marie's. So yeah, long time. All right. Yeah, well, right, gypsies. Yeah, he told people every time he read the snake poem, yeah, because he has to tell you what he's going to do. And then he came out, and I took it wrong the first time too, when he said, all this time I thought they were coming after me. He said this a year ago now, right? The first time. I thought they were coming after me, but in reality, they're coming after you. And then he reiterated it here about a month ago, right? He says, they're not coming after me, they're telling you. He's telling you that they're coming after you, that he's just there for the drama to keep you focused on something other than what's happening. He's not the target. They're talking about now, oh, they're going to prosecute Trump for his crimes when he leaves office and those that were supporting him. They're just still trying to pretend like he's the issue. He is not. He stood openly for what you want, what the good people in this country want, but he never was convinced to go down that road. He was nothing more than an actor. Ronald Reagan was an actor. I think he had a little more honesty than Trump. How much, I'm not willing to say. But Trump has no integrity whatsoever. Zero. It's like I said, when he came into office, my major concern was he only talked about the porridge, right? Trading your birthright for a bowl of porridge. He had no principles. He was always talking about money. As important as the economy is, without principle, you can have money and you're still not going to climb out of that hole. And that's exactly what's happened, because he was principle-less. He had no principles, and he has no principles as of this day, but his own narcissism. That's all he's got. And if that's not satanic, I don't know what is. This grand deception is continuing onward, and the people are suffering for it, and they're doing it, and the leadership and those behind the scenes are doing it on purpose. Not even for the good of the earth like they claim. No, it's for them. It's for them. So that's all I've got. They are on the process of democide no less seriously than Stalin and Mao were. They're cutting off your food supply, your livelihoods. They're fining you excessive fines for standing up for yourselves. They no longer are there to protect your rights. They are there to lord and rule over you. This needs to go away. Will the people rise up in unison? No, the powers that be have done too good a job in dividing us. So I saw a lady this morning, I think she goes by the redhead, the redheaded libertarian or something like that. I followed her for a while. I like her style. And she said, "Well, it looks like 1776 is happening again. I guess we're going to have to find a state government that will go along with liberty." I've already done that search. There isn't one. There isn't one. Even South Dakota has some problems with Nome. None of them are really where they need to be. So the states aren't going to be the answer, and especially when they break up the country into these different regions, which are based on the FEMA regions. And that's how it'll go down. Uh, we're really down to the local level, the real local level, counties, cities, even your neighbors. Like-minded people gathering together to protect each other from the onslaughts of this, as I used to call it, this Leviathan, this beast that seeks to destroy mankind and put everything under its rule, under its tyranny. I'm just pontificating now. If you can find it in your heart to help this gym owner up in Buffalo, New York, please do so. And then, as Nancy Morgan Hart put out yesterday, there are people that need food in New Mexico with what the governor's done there. But I hasten to add that this is all going to expand. It's all going to get worse. So the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you put, when you're in an airplane and the pressure drops, you don't put the mask on your child first because you might pass out before, you can take care of the child. You put the mask on. You got to get yourselves ready. You got to prep, pray, stay out of the way. Like I said, don't get involved in anything with Antifa or that kind of stuff. Stay away from that. You've got bigger fish to fry. And you've got a bigger mission to accomplish, which is to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. But you have to be able to take care of yourself first. Okay? So concentrate on that. But if you can, spare something. I hope that gym owner in Buffalo has a good attorney, because I'm sure he can overturn that. I'm sure he can. The DOJ, they're not going to do anything. They're worthless. I could say some really nasty stuff, but I won't. All right, that's all I got for you. Of course, I won't be on tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be on anytime soon. Like I said, this is the time of year that I take for family, and this year more necessarily than just about any other time that we've had. I hope you feel the same way and that you're doing the exact same thing. To hell with the government edicts. To hell with them. Civil disobedience is an absolute necessity at this point. It's not a luxury. It's not for fun. It's a necessary, absolutely necessary activity. Y'all take care. Out here for now.